I tell y'all all the time that men are extremely transactional, and there's literally no shortage of evidence that they absolutely are. So I bring you to exhibit number 1393 of men all of a sudden understanding the mental load, housework, unpaid labor when it comes to them. Now, I'm not here just to dump on this man. I think he has a very fair point. It is just incredibly infuriating for me to know that I have been on the internet for over a decade now, okay? I've been in these kind of subreddits for over a decade. I'm a natural born people watcher. I'm an only child. Other people's business is my business. I've made it my business. And I have never seen a woman post some shit like this. And that should tell you a lot. I was trying to understand why women so willingly chose to be with such unimpressive men. I realize now it's because men and society just has women completely brainwashed. That's the pattern. The best proof of it is that men act very differently than women when they are exposed to unpaid labor. Let's dig in. And I have another video that I've done on this. I'll tag it below because I love this. This is my favorite genre of internet. Man has to do unpaid labor and completely freaks the fuck out. So he says, am I the asshole for asking my wife to pay me for doing housework? My 30 male wife, who is 29 female, and I always roughly made the same amount of money. So we contributed the same financially and split the housework evenly. This always worked well for us. Recently, I lost my job. I'm getting my country's version of an unemployment check, which is around 60% of my regular pay. I can still pay my share of the household and all the bills, etc., but that leaves pretty much zero spending money. Things are looking well job-wise, but in the end, this will probably still mean about 4 months without any money to spend on anything fun at all. And I'd rather not tap into our savings to have a beer, etc. Now to the argument. My wife suggested I could do a lot more around the house now that I'm out of a job. And I agreed. I won't be sitting around all day doing nothing, but I'll still have way more free time than I had or she has. I did, however, suggest that she pitched in a larger percent to the household finances than her normal 50%. That way I could at least have some spending money the coming months. She disagrees, and we had a somewhat civil argument about it. We couldn't see eye to eye. The way she sees it, I can still pay for my part of the household money, so I should. And I do have the free time, so it's normal that I'd spend more time on chores, etc. She sees my POV as her paying me for doing housework in our own home, which she finds absurd. The way I see it, yes, it makes a lot of sense for me to do more housework in this period, but it also makes a lot of sense for her to chip in more during this period. I think it's unfair that she expects me to spend my extra time on housework. I'm sorry, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through this without laughing, but I think it's unfair that she expects me to spend my extra time on housework but won't support me extra financially. Financially, this isn't a problem for her, so girl's just standing on principle. I love it. We talked about this a long time and we can't seem to come to an agreement, so I'm looking for an outside view. Am I the asshole for my point of view here? My wife is aware of this post, by the way, and agreed on it. I will give this man props. He's not in the comments talking shit on his wife. He's like, she's an angel. This is just the one thing we don't agree on. Like, it's cool either way. So once again, I'm not here to shit on this man. My problem is I've never seen a woman talk like this. Honestly, for the record, I love it that everybody in the comments is like, no, not the asshole. Like, you're totally right. Your labor is worth money. Like, domestic labor that she doesn't have to do is worth money. But to me, it's just like, it's amazing every time how clearly, crystal clear, men can see it the moment, like literally the moment that they are asked to do 1 ounce of unpaid labor. Like, even if a man is going 50-50 with you and he is actually doing 50% of the chores, please don't ever expect, even for 1 second as a woman, that he would do the same thing with all of his free time that you would. No, he will invest it on himself. He will sit there and withhold any extra labor from you during that time if he's still paying the bills and whatever. And most women do this without being asked. They will in fact be financially supporting a man and still be doing all of the housework, 100% of the housework, and they never think to ask a man like, oh, well, you should pitch in around the house since I pay for everything. Most men would be insulted at that. So now I'm like a free maid. Like, no, I'll just go get a job. Like, they'll go get a job out of spite, or they'll do the domestic labor really poorly out of spite. The moment a man feels the weight of actually splitting the household tasks equally, he's also extremely aware of when any extra load even tries to fall on him. He's like, not so fast. Not so fast. How about I get some spending money? Ladies, do not ever feel bad about ever being a gold digger. Ever. Okay? Because at this point, men have shown their whole ass and they're all about that gold. They're all about that money. They're all about that value. They're all about getting a little bit over on you so that they can put more back in their pocket, right? They'll say, oh, we go 50-50 on groceries. They don't say the quiet part, which is I eat most of it. She often slides her leftovers to me and I get to eat a lion's share of these groceries without ever having to pay for it. That's money in my pocket. That's money for my hobbies. That's money for my side chicks. That's money for OnlyFans. Meanwhile, women are none the wiser. Women often bring unspoken, unthanked for labor into the house, like at a much bigger scale than men could ever comprehend. That includes bearing and birthing children. A year of pregnancy. I don't think most men would want to do that. But again, they're very quick to count your money the moment that they are expected to do any extra labor on the house. Because men expect all that and more just for the stress of being the provider, right? They'll be like, I go to work, I work my ass off every day. The least you could do is keep the house, like if you're not contributing, and I'm like the sole provider at this point. Like, even if a woman does make money and does contribute to the household, men will hold other expenses over their head, like, oh, well, if something happened, you need me to cover you, right? And they have no problem holding stuff like that over your head. And I'm not saying this man is trying to do that. He might as well be the exception. I don't fucking know and I don't fucking care. I'm just telling y'all that I've never seen women post on Reddit like this, and I've been on Reddit for a long damn time. My husband asked me to do a little more around the house, and I pushed back. And asked him to compensate me financially. No. Women usually feel guilty and start doing more out of guilt. Now, mind you, this is not a man who's like quit his career to raise this woman's children or birth them or anything like that. This is a man who basically already has a job lined up in about 4 months. This is a man who lives in a country with a social safety net, it sounds like. This isn't like a long-term strategy, but he's literally nickel and diming her. He's like, oh, I don't want to dip into savings just to have a beer. Well, if it's just that small of like a little spending and you don't want to do all this extra work, then dive into your savings for a beer. Why not? You guys were splitting everything 50-50. Where's your money? Like, where's all the money you worked for? Like, what were you spending it on? You don't have like any sort of like backup account. Like, what's the point of doing 50-50 if you're not going to be financially responsible, right? Like, at least do that. You are not required as a man to do like hundreds of dollars worth of beauty maintenance and upkeep on yourself every month. Where's the money going, sir? I always want to ask this. Where's the money going? Why don't you have at least a little bit left for savings? Living in a country with a social safety net and everything. Like, just know that even the good men will rarely ever give you more than they absolutely have to. Whatever it is they feel like they have to give you to keep up that good guy image, that's what they'll give you. And whenever it pushes past that boundary, they're going to set a boundary right there. They're going to be like, pay me. And I just think we should learn from that as women. I think we should be more audacious because men will find the audacity and then be like, no, that's unpaid labor in the household, pay me. That's how they do you. After benefiting off a woman's free labor their entire life. And a lot of people brought up like the mental load in the comments. You know, they were like, are you actually doing 50% or is it like she has to like assign you the tasks? He was like, no, it's 50%. Like, we agree on that, whatever, but we don't know. And I'm glad that people ask that question because that's a really good question. A lot of men will say that they're doing 50%, but they wouldn't do any of it if they weren't explicitly told to do it and how to do it. And the women had to like teach them first, but now they act like it was all their accomplishment. Like, no, sir. She had to front load all of the work, and then now she's just depending on you and your goodwill to keep doing it. You can stop anytime. If she complains about it, or if she posts on Reddit about it, people will just tell her that you have depression or something, and that she should cut you some slack if you just all of a sudden decided to forgo all your chores. If you do that as a woman, then you're a bad wife, and you're a bad mother, etc., etc. So, even the good men, you will find very few, and they have to be very evolved in order to do this. but you'll find very few men that are actually willing to give you anything close to 100% in a relationship, the way that you as a woman yearn to be loved and cared for. There's very few men that are actually interested in that. They're mostly interested in either just benefiting off of you or doing nothing more than like their fair share. And they consider themselves a good guy for that. And do with that what you will, but please stay safe out there. Godspeed.